Hello and greetings, fellow StarCrafters, and welcome back for another 1 versus 1 between the players FXO QXC or FXOqxc and his opponent, the pink Zerg player EGMachine. The map is Shakuras Plateau. It's the new version of Shakuras Plateau, and not super new version, obviously. As I talk about every time, there are no backdoor rocks, which is very good for EGMachine, as that is a very common strategy on that older version of Shakuras Plateau. But this is a much more balanced version of the map. You do have to go around this little channel in order to attack your opponent, walking along this way through the watchtowers and so on and so forth. So you do have to expose your army to the machinations of the Zerg, I guess, and flank attacks and all that sort of thing. And basically the only way that Zerg players can really win in this sort of map. Do you want to talk about these players just a little bit? QXC is a very good player. He's actually currently training in Korea. And actually I think FXO was actually participating in the GSTL, which is GOMTV's team tournament, and they used QXC. I think he was their anchor, but I'm not sure, but he did actually all kill Incredible Miracle, including defeating MVP, so he did a very good job in that match, and, that wasn't too long ago, and MVP, just coming off a winning GSL season, which I think that was before this, but still, it's still very impressive, and he's just a very good player in general. We do see he's getting his reactor after his barracks, so he's not going to be doing a 1-rack fast expand. Machine, on the other hand, is a little less known, I would say, as he actually apparently tends to run into his teammate EG in control and loses to him a lot at various tournaments. He did play 6th at Dallas, and so that's actually the best any Evil Geniuses player has done, including Idra, and actually now including Huck, although Huck hasn't. I don't think Huck's played in a GSL or an MLG event rather as a member of Evil Geniuses yet. But it is better than what Idra has placed at MLG events, and he's kind of more well regarded as a Zerg player than Machine is, I would say, overall. Although, based on his recent performances, maybe that's going to change. And maybe Machine's on his way up as well. We do see a scouting SCV is going to go the wrong way. He's going to check the cross spawns. The Marine, meanwhile, is going to scare away the drone. I don't think the drone was able to spot the barracks and the supply depot, so he can in fact see the wall end. A hatchery first build is happening for EGMachine, very standard on this map, very easy to secure this expansion, and it's a relatively long distance, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to bunker rush, but Terran players always love to bunker rush anyway, and if the Zerg player does not respond exactly correctly, which in this case is pulling 8 drones, then you can actually sometimes get a bunker down. I think actually that's a little bit of an overcommitment on the part of Machine, as that's why QXC is actually moving his SCV up. Machine's just trying to be super careful in this case, but really, like, when you pull 8 drones, and it's a transfer, right, so you don't have to walk all the way back up here in order to be able to keep mining, so that makes it a little bit better, but you don't have to be that afraid. You could probably pull 4 or 5 drones just to make sure that no bunker goes down and still be safe from any of those attacks. Meanwhile, we will see a reactor expand, very common opening build. It's actually like the most common opening build. I rarely see anything other than this these days, and so they will be switching out. The command center is already on the way, and then you'll be building a couple of Hellions. This spine crawler, though, is very well placed, and we'll be able to block it as long as some Zerglings are sitting at the top of the ramp so that Hellions can't actually walk by. It looks like these Zerglings are going to be able to clean up these Marines, except, oh no, it looks like, never mind, there's going to be some good control there from QXC. Oh, it's going to be very close, but not quite able to survive, so these Zerglings will in fact clean it up, and one Zergling is surviving at 1 hit point, was that? It was either 1 or 2 hit points, so that was very impressive that he was barely able to survive, but it's all going to be for naught, as that Zergling will in fact get roasted. There you go. And poor little Zergling's corpse is just going to char right there. Death animations in StarCraft 2 are so much cooler than StarCraft 1. I'm very impressed. All Marines did in StarCraft 1 was explode. Actually, that's all pretty much every unit did, is explode in a bunch of blood and guts. Looks like the Hellions are going to move in. They'll take a shot against the Queen, but I don't think they're going to try to move up into the base. I think, yeah, these Zerglings are moving up here to block it, and the Spine Crawler is in range to be able to attack any Hellions that try to run by there. So I think the Hellions are just going to be for maintaining map control. We do see actually Blue Flame Hellions. Was that a second factory, or did he switch it? He actually switched it. Instead of going into siege tanks, as some Terran players like to do, he's actually going for Blue Flame Hellions, so he is looking to deal some damage for this after the standard 4 Hellions from the Reactor Hellions build. EGMachine, though, being very smart at this point, is actually going to have a second spine crawler up. Unfortunately for him, a starport is now coming down for QXC, so QXC will be able to lift up into the main and see if he can deal some real damage with some Blue Flame Hellions. Uh, Looks like a lair is on the way for EGMachine. That's a fairly early lair. Some players like to stay off of lair tech for a long time, even after they've taken a third for some time, as they feel that it's just not a good use of resources early in the game. That queen's actually fairly low on health, so it could be taken out. Oh, nice moving the spine crawler up. It is going to take a considerable amount of damage from the Hellions as it is rooting in place. However, the Hellions will be able to slide away before it deals any the Hellions will have to slide away before it roots itself, otherwise it's going to deal a lot of damage to those Hellions. Is a medevac on the way? Yes, a medevac is on the way. Starport is finished. Looks like the expansion has now been taken. A bunker is up just to keep him safe. A Marine is checking for a third right there, actually permanently checking for a third. And actually, QXC needs to be much more careful with his Hellions. He's going to lose 2 Hellions right away to the Zergling Rush. Very nice move from EGMachine, seeing that his opponent was not paying attention and able to slide in right there. If that had been properly controlled, though, it was a good idea to move out, because if it had been properly controlled, he would have lost some Zerglings, but possibly would have been able to simply run back into the base, and the spine crawlers would have protected him. Looks like that medevac is going to move across. There is no overlord spotted. However, there are overlords to see at the top of the ramp whether or not a medevac is coming. Oh, and there are Marines as well. So this is going to be a ferry attack, very similar to the attack used by Thorzane that we saw in the previous game that I cast. It looks like he's actually dropping some of the Marines on the low ground. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but he will probably be ferrying them up pretty quickly as well. And you can see that the Hellions are right up against the cliffs so that they can protect him, the Marines rather, from any sort of Zergling incursion as well. Nice target firing from EGMachine onto the medevac. That's exactly what you want to do in these sorts of situations. It looks like actually QXC is not going to move anything up. He is using the Marines to spot the high ground, and then the Hellions are able to do a lot of damage as well. Is he going to be able to take out that Queen? Oh, he wanted to target fire their Queen. Is going to get the other Queen, though, as it does burn to death right there. That was a really cool death animation as well. Looks like that Marine's still on patrol over there. I'm sure he has to ask his superiors. And actually, that medevac's still alive. Wow. EGMachine would have been good to put a creep tumor. He actually placed his first creep tumor on the ground. He could have placed it here, and that would have given him a lot better creep spread to be able to defend against this attack and make this a lot easier to use his queens to target fire down the medevac, as it is almost taken out at this point in time. The Marines are just dancing around a little bit. They actually don't have Hellion support anymore, so they could be taken out, but this Hellion is actually going to move over here, and they're going to stop the expansion from going down. QXC wants to try to maintain his advantage, as he is now starting his command center to take his own third, and so he wants to try to remain ahead of the Zerg player, if at all possible. He wants to maintain his economic advantage. We do see that supply counts are almost exactly identical at this point in time. It seems fairly evenly matched, even though QXC has been able to take some positive trades. These Mutalisks are now out, though, so QXC is going to want to bring his Hellions home. He's going to go ahead and do that, and these Mutalisks are probably going to do a little bit of harassment at QXC's main. He does have a turret coming up right now. Engineering Bay is just starting +1, and this command center will be finished by the time the Mutalisks get there, I would say. Looks like he's transitioning to a very standard Terran build. He's just going for Marine tank. That's pretty much all I see, actually, is I don't see any Terrans meching anymore, really, as it's very difficult to get meching to work, as magic boxing Mutalisks, in addition to a bunch of Zerglings, can make it very difficult to actually be able to engage all sorts of different Zerg forces at the same time, as if Thors are firing at Mutalisks, because the missiles that they fire have such a long delay, it actually means that it's hard for them to engage anything else, even stuff that they're normally really good against, such as roaches. So you do tend to need Marines. That missile turret is literally 1 second away from finishing, which will be able to protect this tech lab. He needs to send SCVs to repair, not going to be able to save it. However, is going to lose a Mutalisk in the process. That was still probably a good trade for Machine, though. Nice job, able to snipe that upgrade. And so he's going to have to wait until both this tech lab finishes, and then he actually has to wait for the full upgrade to finish as well after that. Looks like he is going to move his command center out. These Zerglings might possibly spot that, but no, they're actually going to head home. This third is up already, or not quite up, but it's almost up for EGMachine. So actually, Machine's probably going to want to expand again pretty quickly in order to be able to make sure he stays ahead on expansions. Most Zerg players opt for this expansion, although some do opt for this one, as well as it does allow you to keep all your forces concentrated down here, which is why QXC is opting to take this expansion. He does have large numbers of Hellions still at this point in time. I think it's because mostly he's able to save the Hellions that he didn't quite use in that drop. And so he's just going to try to keep them alive, and they're going to be very effective against any sort of Zergling run-bys that are going to happen. These Mutalisks try to do just that, trying to get around and see if they can deal some damage. Not quite able to get in there and do any damage right now. We do have 7 Marines being produced at a time. I believe it's 3 reactor barracks and 1 tech lab barracks. Oh, never mind. There's 3 barracks that do not have reactors producing Marines at this time. So if he does reactor up those barracks, they could be very effective. I think he saw that the Mutalisks were a little bit out of place, so it looks like he is going to go for a drop. That is going to be spotted by this Overseer right here, though, so it's not going to be terribly effective at the same time. However, he is going to be moving out, so Machine's attention will be elsewhere, and I think QXC's idea is going to be to divide the attention of his opponent at this point in time. He does have 8 Banelings right now. That's probably not going to be enough. He does have 3 more on the way. They do have speed upgraded as well. Looks like those Mutalisks actually are trying to force a stim, but not going to happen. QXC being very good about keeping his Marines nice and healthy for the engagement that's bound to happen pretty soon. Hellions can be pretty good against Banelings. Oh, dude, the drop. So the drop did happen in the main. He was forced to pull up, though, because of those Zerglings, which did respond. And the medevac right there is just going to sit on the bottom and be able to heal those forces up. Meanwhile, he is moving in. A lot of Banelings are able to get a good amount of Marines right there. And I think, actually, the Mutalisks will be able to clean the rest of this up. He probably should have set the Zerglings in at the same time. And actually, he is not going to use the rest of his Mutalisks. Oh, losing another Mutalisk right there. If he sends the Zerglings in at the same time as he sends the Mutalisks in, and he should be able to clean up the rest of this attack very easy. Yes, even with the Medevacs healing, the Marines are going to go down, and the Medevacs are going to be taken out as well. This drop is still sitting here tight. EGMachine, meanwhile, has taken his 3rd right here at the top. It's also worth noting that EGMachine has a huge mineral supply right now, so he's going to want to try to take the gas almost immediately on his 4th expansion, as he is a little gas starved right now. It's also possible he's going to want a macro hatch so he can upgrade his Ling production as well. His Lings are at 1-1, which is very nice to deal with only 1-0 Marines. However, those Marines were on a bad rally point, and they're going to be taken out right away. FXO opens, FXOqxc is not FXO open. He's on the team FXO open, but anyway, his forces are sitting on the watchtower right now. I think that's actually a little bit too much of a forward position. I think that could be cleaned up fairly easily by Machine at this point in time. Actually, that's a good amount of Marines as well. But from a proper engagement, it should go down. We do see the gases are going down right away, as he wants to make sure to catch up with his gases right away. And he did, in fact, have a macro hatchery as well. So that was a very good option on his part. He is getting missile turrets right here. That's going to help against any sort of Mutalisk harass. Looks like he's maybe going to be going for a flank. Nope, just flanking with the Mutalisk. There are 2 turrets here, which will be able to protect his forces somewhat against this Mutalisk harass, and it's possible that Machine will not want to move in. In fact, there are some Marines sliding into the base, and this is one of the failings of Terran on this map, is that it's very difficult to protect all of your expansions at once. I've seen Terran players build like 12 turrets, and it's a huge waste of resources, and you build like 4 turrets inside of your main, but sometimes it's just necessary because it's so hard to get Marines all the way from out here all the way around and up into the main. And it actually looks like the Mutalisks are dealing a lot of damage right now from EGMachine. He's playing a very nice game, but he's taking a lot of damage from these turrets as well. He's not engaging them quite as clumped up as he really wants to. He wants to keep his Mutalisks more grouped so that they can all fire at the same time, so he takes as minimal damage as possible, just like we see from Dongrengu. For those of you who've watched the previous series or seen Dongrengu play in any of his games, he keeps his Mutalisks very tightly clumped when there are not Thors on the battlefield rather, and then just snipes things very, very quickly, so he takes as minimal damage from his Mutalisks as possible. Mutalisks are continuing to harass here, not really going to be able to do too much more damage. These Marines are very hurt though, so they will go down very quickly. However, that's not very many Mutalisks, so he's probably going to want to send those home and regroup with any reinforcement Mutalisks he has, which are right here. QXC is preparing to take his 4th base now. Looks like he's actually got a lot of resources piled up, but he's not maxed out, so he's probably going to want to get some supply depots up. I think part of that is he's had to deal with the Mutalisk harass, so not quite able to finish his buildings. His workers have been getting sniped, and he's had to, deal with moving his workers around and so on and so forth. There are a lot of Mutalisks now, however. 25 Mutalisks, which should be able to take out pretty much any number of turrets as long as there aren't like 4 turrets on top of each other. Oh, going right into those Marines though, and killing them very quickly, however, also taking a lot of damage. I think he lost 3 Mutalisks maybe right there, and some reinforcement Marines are going to slide on in. They are going to be sniped out though, as they're going to withdraw to the safety of the missile turret behind. Ghost Academy is not coming down. I think he's afraid of Hive Tech, so he wants to use those ghosts both to deal with the Mutalisks as well as to deal with any possible Broodlords that are going to be coming on the way. A bunch of Marines on bad rally points are actually being taken out basically for free by these Mutalisks. However, the Mutalisks are losing a number just a little bit. Looks like QXC is still in the middle, and he's probably trying to slow push his way to victory, sliding forwards slowly but surely. Nice job, able to snipe all 3 tech labs. However, all 3 factories are already building Thors, and because the Thors were already queued, they are going to be able to finish. EGMachine taking way too much damage from his Mutalisks from all those Marines. He was just not... Wow, that was pretty bad control on his part. He just lost, like, he went from 25 Mutalisks down to 11 Mutalisks, and that's a lot of damage. Looks like he's going to be going into the middle, however. That's a lot of Zerglings, and very few Marines able to deal with these Zerglings. The siege tanks are dealing a lot of damage as well, but it looks like those Banelings will be able to clear out most of those Marines and the bunker as well. And I think actually, wow, EGMachine is going to be able to break this center contain. Very nice job on his part. I think QXC was just a little bit too ambitious. He does have reinforcements coming across, including 3 Thors, which can be help a lot, especially in conjunction with the Marines in terms of keeping the Zerg forces at bay. This is a lot of Zerg forces, though. He is at 2-1, which means they deal a lot of damage and take very little in return. However, the Terran Marines are at 2-1 as well, so it's going to be equal upgrades. The mech is not quite as well upgraded. However, Thors don't really need it when they're sniping Zerglings, as they do one-shot them no matter what. And looks like, as you can see here, it becomes very difficult to engage these Zerglings when there's Mutalisks over here, because they have to spend all the time missile firing at the Mutalisks. And that looks like he's probably going to want to repair these Thors. They're going to begin. Oh, very nice pickup right there. He was trying to fungal growth the Thors in order to finish them off, but he just picks them up so that they cannot be picked off by the infestors right there. Very nice job from QXC. That was very impressive micro on his part. Looks like that overseer is actually still sitting there. Probably should be using that for scouting just a little bit more, although he does have a pretty good idea of what's going on in his opponent's base, as he has been flying Mutalisks around it all day long. Looks like the mineral advantage and the gas advantage, actually, there's a huge amount of gas waiting. I think he's waiting for the Greater Spire to finish so that he can get a number of Broodlords. He doesn't have any Corruptors right now. We do have a nice little counterattack here. As soon as this Planetary Fortress finishes, however, the Zerglings will be taken out. As now the Planetary Fortress finishes, and they are taken out. It looks like this drop is going down almost immediately. Oh, actually, it looks like the Marines were able to brute force their way right into those Lings, right through those Lings, rather. And now he's taking out a couple of drones, and the Zergling counterattack, though, very nice positioning in between the spawning pool. But do you know who don't care? Do you know what kind of unit doesn't care about positioning? It is Banelings, as they do, in fact, roll through the tightest packed Marines. That's exactly their specialty. Looks like these Thors did end up getting repaired. Very nice job from QXC. He does have 2 siege tanks right now, going for another drop, I think most likely at the 4th base, while planning to take a 5th base of his own. Meanwhile, I think he's actually being a little bit too aggressive right here, as a large amount of Lings could very easily deal with this force. In fact, I think this force right here could deal with this force. He doesn't actually have Neuroparasite, which would be very helpful for the Thors or the siege tanks. Neuroparasite would be a very welcome addition on his part. He's getting 3rd level Carapace as well as Adrenal Lance, so these Zerglings will be upgraded into Cracklings. Looks like he did get a pretty good idea of what's in the middle right here. Looks like wow, actually these Marines just bouncing around each other, a little bit of poor control right there, but he did split the forces right now, and he's using the Marines to target fire both hatcheries at the same time, making it very difficult for his opponent to be able to deal with both the forces at once. The infestors are going to fungal growth. However, oh wow, he missed the transfuse on the Queen. He did not send the drones to attack it either, so he did in fact lose that hatchery. Very big loss actually for EGMachine, as he's now running out of minerals, as his natural and his main are mined out right now. This base was also locked down, sort of, as it actually kind of didn't really have any drones at it to begin with. Looks like those Marines are taking a lot of damage, though, from the Broodlords. A lot of Vikings, though, are actually dealing a lot of damage. And looks like that Thor is taking a lot of damage as well. However, the Vikings are dealing a lot of damage to the Broodlords as well. Able to snipe the hatchery. Now, EGMachine is going to be in a lot of trouble right here. I'm going to be very impressed if he manages to turn this game around, as he is moving into the middle, though, and dealing a lot of damage. A very nice spread, though, from QXC on his siege tanks. However, then there's just too many Zerglings, and they're dealing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the Fungal Growths and the Infested Terrans are dealing a lot of damage to the Vikings, able to protect the Broodlords. However, actually, no, not quite able to protect the Broodlords, as all of the Broodlords were in fact taken out. Yes, he's completely out of Broodlords at this point in time, but he was able to clear the middle of Terran units. Once a Terran loses its army, it becomes kind of difficult to replenish. However, EGMachine is down by 50 supply right now, so he's actually just bleeding forces right now, and having those 2 hatcheries sniped is not going to make the situation any better, as it becomes very difficult to come back, basically, as the Zerg, once you get behind against a Terran player, as he barely has enough minerals actually to be able to build a new hatchery. He has a bunch of drones, long distance mining, but really he should be fully saturating this base right here. But I think he's dealing with too much of his opponents right now. Too much of his opponent's forces is microwing too much. He is setting infestors in. Those infestors are going to slide right underneath those missile turrets that are in fact building and not completed. This ghost right here is actually, there was a drop coming in right here, dealing a little bit of damage to that hatchery, but should be cleaned up by those Lings right there. Ghosts are going to be for dealing with those Broodlords, as their snipe is very effective in that regard. These drones are going to have a lot of drones be taken out. It looks like QXC is actually not watching these. He did drop up here, forced to cancel on the hatchery. Very nice job from QXC. Keeping his opponent all over the map. He's dealing a lot of damage, killing a lot of drones at this point in time. It looks like Machine's actually, I'm not even sure where Machine's microing right now. He's not controlling his drones. He is sending his Zerglings all around. But QXC is doing a very good job keeping him all over the map, making sure that he can't just sit around and, not really control things that closely. That Queen is going to fall very quickly, which is going to lower his production even further. Nice, able to snipe it and able to kill a lot of drones as well. Now, killing these drones is actually extremely deadly at this point in time because Machine is already way behind in resources. These Broodlords, however, are doing a lot of damage. They won't want to target fire that Ghost. However, the Ghost is able to snipe the same Broodlord like 10 times and able to take it out. Ghost wishes that EMP energy but does not and gets fungal growth and taken out. These Vikings, however, should be able to clean up the rest of those Broodlords. This drop is still doing a lot of damage, preventing any sort of mining from EGMachine right now. Vikings are meanwhile firing at the Broodlords, able to slowly but surely take them out. The Marines are sitting back so they don't take too much damage as well. Looks like this drop has actually now been cleaned up, and EGMachine is actually just going to be forced to GG out of this game. Very nice job from QXC, attacking up here, attacking right here, attacking in the middle, holding the middle actually with surprisingly little amount of forces. His spread has just been incredible, and even though EGMachine was able to take out the kind of middle contain, it's not really contain, but I guess the middle splitting of the map that QXC has been doing to kind of protect all of his expansions from run-bys. Even though QXC didn't really have that many forces, EGMachine just wasn't able to break him completely enough. He did clear it out a couple of times, but it just wasn't enough. He was taking too much economic damage, and when both those hatcheries got sniped, that was the final nail in the coffin. He just didn't have enough resources to be able to come back from the game, and even though at one point he was floating 3,000 minerals, he ended up being mineral starved at the end of the game, and it just shows you kind of how fast these games can kind of switch around if you lose a hatchery, if you lose an expansion, very quickly you can, all of a sudden your mineral income goes away, and you're not able to succeed. And so that's what happened in this game. Very nice game played by QXC and from EGMachine as well. And we'll be moving on to game number 2. This is PGL Minecraft signing off. Actually, looking at it, he did say good luck in the tournament. I think this was actually game number 3, so I'll be uploading this in the correct order. But I did in fact do this in the wrong order. So my mistake, but yeah, I'm still signing off.